The Christian Crusades happened to protect the rest of the world from the invasion of Islam. Please watch until the end of the video to hear what he has to say about the history of the Crusades and then my opinions at the end.
So are you saying that with Christianity comes peace? Yeah?
So, ladies and gentlemen,
What about the Crusades?
the question was, and if you interrupt the answer, you'll find that you don't get to ask another question. The question was, am I saying that with Christianity comes peace? No, I'm not. I'm saying with Christ comes peace. But then the question was, what about the Crusades? So let me answer that directly.
Answer it.
The Crusades were launched after 7 centuries of constant Islamic aggression. Before the very first crusade was launched in 1095, Muslims had invaded the following Christian lands. They had invaded Christian Syria, Christian Jordan, Christian Palestine, Christian Egypt, Christian Algeria, Christian Libya, Christian Morocco, Christian Portugal, Christian Spain, Christian France, Christian Sicily, Christian Turkey, Christian Armenia, Christian Italy, all before the first crusade. The Crusades are a legitimate response to Islamic aggression and Islamic violence. I don't need to hear any lectures about the Crusades from people who support Islamic colonialism, Islamic imperialism, Islamic dominion and Arabization. Any other questions about any aspect of Christian history, Christian belief, Christian values, traditions? This is your opportunity. Any questions? Gone.
So you spoke about the Crusades.
Yep.
Is it the same situation with the slave trade? Because they use Christianity to convert Africans and then bring them along in ships to the Americas.
Okay.
What did Islam have to do with that?
So he asked the question,
What was the question?
what does Islam have to do with the slave trade?
Okay.
No. Wait,
wait.
no.
Yeah, I'm going to address your full question. I'm going to address your full question.
No, but we pay, but
Let's be clear. Before the European slave trade of the 1600s, 1700s and 1800s that happened in West Africa, the Islamic slave trade had existed in the Muslim world for nearly 14 centuries prior. For nearly, ladies and gentlemen, for nearly 11 centuries, Muslims had taken slaves across Africa, across Europe, and had taken them into the Muslim world. And all through the time that Europeans practiced slavery, for the full 300 years of the European slave trade, Muslims continued to practice their own slave trade. They continued to kidnap people from Europe. They continued to kidnap people from Indonesia, people from India, people from Afghanistan, people from Africa, and take them into the Islamic slave markets to trade them as slaves. They did this because Muhammad was a slave trader who bought slaves and sold slaves. Christians, however, have ended the slave trade multiple times at different parts of history, at different geographies around the world for the last 2,000 years. The most recent example was when William Wilberforce and the anti-slave traders convinced the British Empire, using Christian arguments, to end the British slave trade. The British Royal Navy then sacrificed blood and resources to end the slave trade around the world, including inside the Islamic world. Ladies and gentlemen,
50 years.
now notice, the Muslim that asked the question
Where is he?
didn't even bother to listen to the answer, because that's how they do it. They're not interested in what you've got to say. All that they want to do is try and make a polemical point, and then they're not interested in anything you have to say afterwards, because they don't like the truth. Why did Christians try to abolish the slave trade?
Why?
Because our example is Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, in a time when slavery was normal, never had a slave, never bought a slave, and never sold a slave.
And that is the reason why that Muslim man ran away as soon as he heard the truth about the Crusades. Now, that is the true story, unfortunately, about why the Christian Crusades had to happen. So now, if you've ever been to middle school or high school in the western part of the world, including the UK, France, all throughout Europe, US, wherever, you've probably heard something along the lines of, from your liberal middle school or high school history teacher, that the Christian Crusades were these like bigoted thing by these white Christian males who just wanted to have world domination, were picking on these innocent little Muslims who were defenseless and did nothing wrong. Well, unfortunately, I hate to break it to the Muslims during Ramadan, because you know they get angry when they don't eat their pork and bacon. But the reality is that these Muslims were these big, upset, angry, vicious white males who would go ahead and R-word all the women of the countries they would capture and slew the heads off the men of all the countries they would go to viciously. And they wanted to conquer all the nations in the world, causing world domination. And thankfully, all glory to God, because of the Crusades, we were saved from this unfortunate reality of Islam conquering the whole world. But that was only by the glory of God. Now I know it's up for debate. Should the Christian Crusades, did they do the right thing? Did they not do the right thing in the Christian circles? But the reality is, guys, if the Christian Crusades would have never happened, guys, Islam would have dominated the whole world, no matter how we want to cut it or spin it. That is just the reality. So the Christian Crusades, I'm not really against them. I think that the Christian Crusades were a very much needed thing at that time period. And honestly, with the way things are looking now with Islam, I don't want to say anything specifically so I don't get censored, but I think you guys can fill in the blank of what I'm trying to say, right? But go ahead and let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Do you guys think that the Crusaders are in the right, or do you guys think that they're in the wrong for defending themselves against these angry, vicious Muslims who wanted to conquer the whole world? Please go ahead and subscribe, like, comment, share your opinions below, and I hope you guys have a blessed weekend.